There is a particular moment that happens after being around people for several hours. You finally close the door behind you, put your phone somewhere you cannot immediately see it, and feel your body loosen in a way you did not realize it had been holding itself together. Even people you genuinely enjoyed can suddenly feel impossible to respond to. Conversation is over, nothing bad happened, and yet the idea of another voice, another question, or another person needing your attention feels strangely exhausting. From the outside, this can look antisocial. Someone might assume you dislike people, take relationships for granted, or disappear because you are emotionally distant. Sometimes even you may wonder why an ordinary dinner, family gathering, workday, or afternoon with friends seems to require such a disproportionately long recovery afterward. But needing solitude after social contact is not automatically evidence that something went wrong during the interaction. For some people, being socially present requires far more continuous processing than anyone around them can see. That is what can sit underneath the need for hours of complete isolation after socializing. It is not simply wanting quiet. It can be the mind gradually releasing itself from the constant work of tracking expressions, choosing responses, managing attention, adjusting behavior, filtering noise, anticipating interruptions, and remaining available to whatever happens next. The social event may have felt enjoyable while it was happening, because enjoyment and effort are not opposites. Something can feel meaningful and still use a great deal of mental energy. Human interaction asks the brain to process several streams of information at once. There are words, facial expressions, tone of voice, pauses, background sounds, memories, expectations, and the continuous question of what response fits the moment. Attention has to move repeatedly between the environment, the other person, and your own internal reactions. For people who naturally monitor more of this information, the experience can resemble having dozens of small applications running in the background. None of them is overwhelming by itself, but after several hours, the accumulated demand becomes noticeable. There is also the quiet work of self-regulation. Social situations usually involve adjusting impulses in small ways, waiting before speaking, deciding whether something needs explaining, noticing whether someone is bored, changing your tone, remembering what another person said earlier, or suppressing the urge to retreat when stimulation becomes uncomfortable. Psychology often describes parts of this process through ideas like attentional control and self-monitoring. In ordinary life, it simply feels like remaining slightly tuned toward everyone else. Isolation removes that requirement almost instantly. This is one reason silence can feel physically different after socializing. The room stops asking questions. Nobody is reading your expression. Nothing requires an immediate answer. Your attention can stay in one place instead of repeatedly orienting toward voices, movements, notifications, and subtle interpersonal cues. The nervous system is no longer preparing for the next small demand, which can create that unusually satisfying feeling of finally being unreachable. For some people, this pattern has existed for as long as they can remember. Temperament matters. People differ in how much external stimulation feels comfortable and in how rewarding or tiring prolonged social engagement feels. But experience can shape the pattern too. Someone who grew up around frequent interruption may become unusually protective of uninterrupted time. Someone raised around unpredictable moods may have learned to keep part of their attention focused on what everyone else was feeling, even during seemingly ordinary conversations. Other histories can create a similar need for privacy without involving anything dramatic. A person who is expected to remain polite, helpful, responsive, or emotionally manageable may have learned that being around others means remaining available. Someone who is frequently corrected or criticized might automatically review what they said long after the conversation ends. Someone who rarely had genuine privacy may experience solitude as one of the few places where attention belongs completely to them. None of these experiences is required, but they can explain why isolation sometimes feels less like loneliness and more like recovery. There is no universal amount of social contact that a healthy person is supposed to want. Some people recover through company, movement, conversation, or shared activity. Others regulate more effectively through low stimulation and uninterrupted privacy. Personality, environment, sensory sensitivity, stress levels, familiarity with the people involved, and even the type of interaction can all change how demanding socializing feels. A quiet evening with one trusted person may require almost no recovery, while several hours in a noisy group can leave the same person wanting complete silence until the following morning. The more interesting paradox is that needing isolation does not necessarily mean connection matters less. Sometimes the opposite makes the pattern confusing. A person can deeply value friends, miss people when they are gone, and still feel relieved when plans end. They can want closeness and also want nobody to contact them for the next 6 hours. The relief does not cancel the affection. It reflects the difference between emotional connection and the cognitive demands of being continuously accessible. Isolation also gives back something social situations temporarily limit: control over attention. Alone, there is no need to coordinate pace with anyone else. Thoughts can remain unfinished. Silence does not need to be filled. A person can eat, walk, read, stare at a wall, or do almost nothing without explaining why. For someone whose attention tends to remain externally oriented around other people, that freedom can feel remarkably restorative. But every protective strategy carries a possible trade-off. Solitude can restore attention and reduce stimulation, while also becoming something the mind starts anticipating before socializing has even begun. If every demanding interaction is followed by immediate withdrawal, relief itself can strengthen the urge to escape quickly the next time. That does not suddenly make the habit unhealthy. It simply explains why the boundary between genuine restoration and automatic avoidance can sometimes become difficult to see from the inside. The hours alone may therefore be doing several jobs at once. They can allow sensory stimulation to settle, give unfinished thoughts space to return, reduce social monitoring, and restore a sense of personal autonomy. They may also provide time for emotions that were postponed during interaction to become noticeable. What looks like doing nothing can actually be the first moment all day when the mind is no longer organizing itself around someone else's presence. So if socializing leaves you wanting a long stretch of absolute isolation, it does not automatically mean you are cold, ungrateful, incapable of intimacy, or broken. Your mind may simply have learned that privacy is where stimulation decreases, attention becomes yours again, and emotional processing can happen without interruption. The pattern probably has a logic, even if nobody ever explained that logic to you. And once that logic becomes visible, other habits can start looking different too. The closed door, the unanswered phone, the long walk alone, the hours spent doing almost nothing after everyone leaves. They may be small clues about how your mind learned to recover its sense of space after being available to the world. Following those clues can reveal much more about what makes connection feel safe, what makes it tiring, and what your attention quietly searches for when nobody else is asking anything from it. Thanks for watching. If you like this effort, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps support more thoughtful videos like this.